Hi, welcome to the first ever episode of the Cash vs. Trash podcast. My name is Rob.
And my name is Demi, and we love watching movies. We also love learning about the behind the scenes stuff. We're always Googling on our phones after a movie, like who made the movie, who are the actors, how much money it made.
Or during.
Yeah, most of the time it's during. So, yeah, we decided to just record ourselves and put it out there to the world, see who has similar opinions to us.
That's it.
Yep.
The world needs to hear what we have to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, as Demi just told everyone, we love watching movies, and we also love finding out what movies make money and why they made money and where they made money, or the most money or the least money. So we decided to get the highest grossing movie and the lowest grossing movie of every year from 1970 to 2021. Throw them all in a hat. The years, not the movies. Pick them out at random.
Yeah.
And as you can see by the title, this year is 2010. This episode is part one. Next week, part two will be out with the lowest grossing movie.
Yep.
So the way that this is going to work is we talk about, just some stuff that we found interesting about the movie, non-spoiler review, even though, this movie came out 12 years ago. Some of the movies are going to come out like, was it 50 years ago?
Yeah.
But we'll always do a bit of a non-spoiler thing because, there's movies on here that we hadn't seen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and...
And then do a spoiler.
Yeah.
A spoiler review sort of after that.
Yeah, but a bit more in-depth. Not quite a rundown of everything that happens in the movie, more just...
What we thought of it.
Yeah, what we thought of it, the interesting things, and a basic outline of the story for people who have seen it or, just want to hear our beautiful, sexy voices. So, as I'm sure you've seen by the title, this episode will be Toy Story 3.
Yep. According to Box Office, that was the highest grossing movie of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Also,
understandably.
first ever animated movie to make over $1 billion.
Yep.
Yeah, we go off of boxofficemojo.com. So before anyone comes at us, I mean, the highest grossing ones, that's really accurate, but the lowest grossing ones, which we'll talk more about next week,
Bit more complicated.
Yeah, we try to go off of the movies that had a very wide release. So if you go and look into it yourself, you might see that, and this is mostly just for the lowest grossing, but to just give an idea of how this all works. If there's a movie at the bottom of the list that only got released in about 2 or 3 countries, it's not very fair to pit that against, Titan like Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
So
it's only fair that both movies have a pretty wide release and
have a fair
a
chance
few
of making money.
Yeah.
So with that said, we might as well get into our non-spoiler review, or do you want to do production stuff first?
We'll do production stuff, yeah.
All right, we'll go straight into that.
Yep, follow the schedule.
So, Toy Story 3 came out in 2010, grossed worldwide $1,066,969,703 US dollars, I imagine, because on Box Office Mojo is a US website.
Yep.
You might have been able to figure out from our accents that we're not American.
No.
We're not going to tell you where we're from.
It'd be pretty obvious.
Yeah, you should be able to figure it out, but I don't want to say right away because, people might go back and listen and be like, oh, they're from London.
So it made a lot of money, basically.
It made a shit ton of money.
Yep.
Domestic, which is the US, it made $415,004,880, which is already an insane amount of money on a $200 million budget. Foreign, which is everywhere other than the US, $651,964,823.
A lot of numbers.
As says Box Office Mojo, all right? So
Yeah. That's just what we base our information
So
off.
if you get different information from somewhere, if you know more than us, which is usually true, don't friggin' add us, all right?
Yeah.
Just
We're
it
just
doesn't
sticking
matter.
to one place for all the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
This
doing
is
the best we
this
can.
isn't a super serious financial podcast.
No.
We had aspirations of doing that, but we are not talented or smart enough to do that.
No.
I don't know much more about the box office, for like a box office podcast. What else do we say? It's Toy Story 3. It's a Pixar movie.
It's bound to do well.
Yeah, of course it's going to make a lot of money. I mean, it got released everywhere in the world. Everybody, like the Toy Story characters, I feel, are instantly recognizable. They're like on that Scooby-Doo level or Spider-Man or something like that. I think that they're maybe not quite as popular, but for the Western world at least,
Yeah.
I feel that they're quite popular.
Yeah. And Toy Story 3 was released 15 years after
Yeah.
Toy Story 2.
No, Toy Story 1.
Toy Story 1, yeah. So, like, I guess people were very excited when it came out. Like, it'd been so long.
Yeah, you mean, like, why it was so, other than the fact that it's a Pixar movie, why it was so wildly successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the non-spoilers and spoiler part, but, yeah, I mean, you watch a movie when you're a little kid, and then, you grow up sort of with those characters. It's not like you just watch a movie once, and then...
15 years later, you're, at that similar age to what Andy was in the movie.
Yeah, and the themes of the movie and all that. But yeah, we'll get to all that. There was just some things I was really interested in when I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff, like how they avoided Toy Story 3. Obviously, they have to update pretty much everything. Like all of their old character models, they had to bring in, take what they wanted, strip out what they didn't want. I mean, I'm not an animator, that's just what I took from it. And either build everything from scratch or take a few things. Well, I think there was one interesting note one of the animators had about Buzz Lightyear's eyebrows.
Yeah.
On the original design, because I think they used the same ones for the first two movies, he had 3 points or something like of movement or something like that on his eyebrows, and in the new way they do it is like 28.
Yeah.
But that would be too human, so they stripped it right back.
Yeah.
So it's just like that little attention to detail. Yeah, I think it's just...
They took like that using new technology and the amazing things that they can do with it compared to the first two movies, but didn't make it too realistic. Like, you still get that sense that it's toys and not real.
Yeah. One thing I really loved was that shot, we talked about it when we were watching it, of all the new studio stuff, and it's just like so many fancy computers and huge screens, and then it shows a clip from, I think, when they're making Toy Story 1, and it's about 20 people huddled around a tiny little box monitor computer, and they're all like, yeah, this is great.
Yep, you can barely even see what's on the screen. It's so fuzzy and small.
How far they've come.
I know, it's insane.
Yeah, with the faces, like I was talking about Buzz, they had to completely remake all the human faces, because if you've seen the original two Toy Story movies, those are not people. Those are like horrible animatronics.
I know. Like, Andy's face it's so creepy.
And in this one, he's a handsome young man, and all the other people, he's the one that you see the most, other than
his mum and his sister.
Yeah, and then other characters, which won't spoil.
Yeah.
Who hasn't seen this movie?
I know, right?
But they had to avoid something called the Uncanny Valley. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, basically it's the valley. It's not a place, obviously. It's on a graph. The line comes along when a robot or an animated face that's supposed to be human, if it's not very human at all, it's fine. It doesn't trigger anything in the human brain. And then if it's human as live action, or these days they can get some pretty bloody good motion capture or even animation.
It's recognizable.
But when it's let's say like Toy Story 1 and 2, or I can't think of anything off the top of my head. You know, you see those clips of robots where they give them human faces for some reason.
Yeah, and it's just so creepy.
Yeah, because it doesn't look right. Like the eyes are dead, and the facial expressions just aren't proper, and that's where the uncanny valley just drops down. Of like, something's not right there,
Yeah.
and it's just creepy.
You just want to look away. You're like, oh, that's really weird. I don't really
Yeah.
want to watch this.
I think I heard. I don't know if this is true. I heard that it's like an evolutionary response to like seeing dead bodies. Like if you see somebody and they're like, the light in their eye has gone out, so to speak. You
Yeah.
can tell that there's something not right there, or if they're sick, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just very
Yeah,
strange.
there's a lot of conspiracy theories that go out like, oh, what did we see back in the day that wasn't human but looked human? But no, it's to identify sickness and death and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that if you see a human face that isn't quite right,
Yeah.
it just freaks
Puts
you
you
out.
off. Yeah.
But the more cartoony it is, it's fine. You know,
Yeah.
that's why we can watch 3D animated stuff that doesn't look very good, but it's fine because they're not attempting to make them look photorealistic. Like, what did we put on the other day? Astro Boy. They're all somewhat human, but they're clearly,
Yeah, very cartoony.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they did a good job. Like, compared to the first two movies, the characters do look a lot better, more attention to detail.
bloody
And,
hope so.
yeah. But, yeah, not too far where you're like, oh, that looks a bit weird. This looks like
Yeah.
a real person.
It surprisingly, I reckon you'd almost. I mean, I haven't watched those first two in a long time. The first one, it's. We'll talk about it in an episode down the line because Toy Story 1,
Yeah, it's one of the
spoilers, was, for the podcast, was highest grossing of the year
1995.
1995. That's right.
That's
Good
when
year.
it came out.
Good year.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty dodgy, but it was the first one ever. And then, but the difference between the first and the second one is so vast in like 3 or 4 years. But up in like the third one, because they tried to make it look as faithful as possible, I don't feel that the look hasn't changed so much. Like the fourth one, I remember watching it, and good movie and all that, but it just looked so different.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a technological leap or whatever, and it's a good movie. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I remember watching it thinking, wow, this looks very different to the other Toy Story movies, whereas this one still feels like...
It's like down the middle of... Yeah. And even the colours in this movie, like compared to the first two, it's just so much brighter and more colourful and... Yeah. I thought the animation in this movie was pretty good. Especially like the background and the scenery and stuff. Like I could see there was a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they put that $200 million budget to
Yeah.
use. So yeah, do you want to go into the non-spoiler?
Runner-ups?
Oh yeah, talk about the runner-up. So
The first five runner-ups, or first four, obviously Toy Story was number one.
So the
Toy
top
Story 3.
5 highest grossing movies of
Yeah.
2010. Yeah.
So Toy Story 3, and then number 2 was Alice in Wonderland. Number 3 was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Number 4 was Inception, and number 5 was Shrek Forever After.
Yeah, that's like what a bloody lineup.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about the top 10 in a sec because there are some on there that I think like wow, they didn't climb
Get
up
higher,
there.
yeah.
But just those ones like Alice in Wonderland made $40 million less. Live action remake of a Disney movie. Those are all the rage these days. I think this was the first. I think maybe not the first ever, but it was like I think this one kicked it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people hated it.
Well,
but
the
it made a
first
lot
one
of
is
money.
so good. I don't think it
The
needed
original?
the original. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it really needed to be
Oh,
remade, but
none of them need it.
they just do it anyway.
It isn't. Not that we'll get too much into it, but it isn't a remake though. It is sort of a sequel.
Yeah.
I think that's how they got away with it, because it's not just a retelling and all that. Just straight off track onto another movie. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, that amazes me that it isn't number one.
Yeah.
But
With
I s-
such a cult following, you would think.
but it's a movie about magic. That's why I know a lot of religious, like Christians, and I don't know much about Islam, but I imagine they might be the same. A lot of those religious groups would probably be like, no, can't watch that.
Mm.
Um, I had a friend when I was in school who wasn't allowed to watch the Charmed TV show because it had magic in it, and his family was religious, but he was allowed to go watch The Passion of the Christ, which is, for anybody who's seen it will know, it's absolutely brutal. So yeah, and we were like, I don't know, 10.
Jeez.
So yeah. Inception, Christopher Nolan movie, it's right where you think it is, and Shrek Forever After would have been number one, I believe, if Shrek the Third wasn't so absolutely trash.
Yeah.
But, you know, then there's like, this number 6 is the Twilight Saga Eclipse.
Mm.
Like, that first Twilight movie came out when I first started high school, and the last one came out, I think, my last year of high school or just after. Or was there one every year?
I really don't know.
I think there was one every year. So, for just like 5, maybe 6 years in a row, these movies just dominated. I would have
Yeah.
thought Eclipse would have been much higher because
Mm.
it was everywhere.
Yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
so raved about at the time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 is number 7, which, like, you know, small beginnings, humble beginnings, apparently. And then I suppose once Disney took it over, like with
Yeah.
Pixar, they.
Yep.
Tangled, another Disney movie,
Yep,
great.
amazing.
And then Despicable Me and How to Train Your Dragon round out the top 10. Both those franchises went on, especially Despicable Me. I don't think there's anybody on the planet who hasn't seen, even if they don't know what it is, hasn't seen a Minion.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If
Anyway.
you've ever been on Facebook before and you have a mum, you've probably seen Minions.
Yeah. the holding the glass of wine,
Yeah.
talking about, you know,
Good old Minion
yeah,
memes.
far out. I hate them so much.
I love them.
Anyway, we've gotten,
Way off track.
yeah,
So yeah, those were the runner-up movies. Toy
Yeah.
Story took the number 1 place. Toy Story 3. Yep.
well deserved, I feel. I mean, it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone that I like this movie, or, as we'll get into, you liked it, but, so,
I have some unpopular opinions.
yeah. So, why don't we do the non-spoiler review, talk about the basic stuff, some of the characters. So, yeah, the movie is the third movie in a massive franchise. The first movie came out in 1995. Great year, the year I was born.
I was not born yet.
No, didn't exist.
I was negative 2 years old.
I didn't watch the first one much. I grew up watching the second one a lot. I saw the second one first, and I probably watched it a couple of times. I really loved it. Still do. It's a great movie. The first one's probably the weakest. But, like, you know,
It's still a good movie.
yeah, all three of them. Like, it's pretty much a three-way tie. I think the second one, you know, maybe it's nostalgia, whatever. It is my favorite one. Not my favorite Pixar movie. That's
Just of the Toy Stories.
yeah, just
Yeah.
the Toy Story. Yeah, it picks up. I think there's not really much of a spoiler. It's has a little sort of thing, shows you when the, not main character, but sort of, he's very pivotal, character Andy is playing with his toys, and then it sort of skips over the years. You know, sort of starts off at the same time as Toy Story 2, and then just goes from there. You get a little thing, and we're in the movie. It's, what do you reckon? 10 years later?
Yeah, well, he's going to college, so I imagine he's like...
I think they
eight.
say he's 17.
Oh, yeah, 17.
So it's about this kid, Andy, his toys. They used to get played with a lot. and now they don't. It feels silly talking about Toy Story 3 because I've never met somebody who hasn't seen it. So, the toys go on a little adventure. You know, it's all about growing up and moving on.
Yeah, finding a new purpose that doesn't just involve being played with by Andy, because of course he doesn't play with them anymore. He's going to college,
Yeah.
and they have to
It feels a little
find
bit...
a new way.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like moving on, like you're a parent and you're moving on, or you've just gotten out of a relationship. It's sort of those sort of themes. You know, you're so strongly tied with this one person, and now you're moving on, and not in a bad way. Just that's just what happens sometimes. You know,
Like this one thing that you've had for so long, and you've outgrown it, and you need to move on.
Yeah, and we'll get into the characters. Our main character, Woody.
Yep.
He's the sheriff, voiced by Tom Hanks, excellently by Tom Hanks.
Yeah. I think everyone in this movie was voice cast really well.
Yeah, I don't remember any time where I didn't like. It never took me out of the movie. That's one thing. You know, if you're ever watching a movie or listening, I guess you know, like to an animated movie like this, I mean, and you ever think, wow, this person's performance is so good, you're being taken out of the movie.
Yeah.
So
like, even though Tom Hanks' voice is so distinct, like when you're watching it, you're like, oh, that's just Woody. You don't really think, oh, that's Tom Hanks playing that. It's just that's Woody and that's Buzz.
It's not jarring. You know, you don't go, oh, this. Everyone's perfectly cast. Everyone does exactly what they're supposed to do.
Very well suited to their characters.
Spot on, you know. I forgot to say it was directed by Lee Unkrich. Yeah, he was editor on Toy Story 1, and I think he was editor or assistant director, some crap like that. Not to downplay it, I just can't remember, for Toy Story 2, and he's been with Pixar ever since. I think he came on just as a worker, and he fell in love with the company.
Yeah. They've got a creative team of like 6 members, I think it is.
I think they were like the heads.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because, like, some people come up with the story because there's like, I often hear a criticism of movies is, oh, you know, it was written by committee. This movie has a whole bunch of story credits, a whole bunch of writing credits, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's the problem. I don't think it's, oh, by committee. I think it's the voices that craft the movie need to line up. So
you have to have a group of people that all work together and work well together, and it feels like doesn't feel like it was by a committee. It's just because they all work so well together.
Yeah. So it's got John Lasseter, which is pretty obvious, Andrew Stanton, Lee Unkrich, and Michael Arndt. I think that's how you say his name. The first 3 all had story by credits, which just might mean because they're producers and Lee Unkrich is the director. But Michael Arndt wrote the movie.
Yeah.
And they made a pretty big... they made like a pretty big thing of letting their creators have so much...
free reign.
Free reign, yeah. Which is great.
Yeah, it really works for them.
Yeah, and like I always say, Pixar is the best studio in the world because they're like the imagination studio.
Very relaxed and just let your imagination run free.
Yeah. So get back to the cast. Yeah. The other main is Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear.
Yep.
Star Force Command Ranger. So people are just, if they hear that, are just going to skewer me. I don't know what his actual title is, but yeah, everybody loves Buzz Lightyear. Everybody knows his catchphrase, to infinity and beyond. I almost said or beyond. Yeah, those two are definitely the main. It's Woody's movie, I feel, but Buzz... He doesn't have as much character growth, but that's not a bad thing.
In this movie, he is more involved.
Yeah, he's more like just that really good mate you have.
Yeah.
You know, he'll always stand by you, and he is that to Buzz, and then Woody is that, so to speak, to Andy. You know, Woody is he's like the preacher.
Yeah.
You know, he loves Andy so much. He's the sheriff.
He's Andy's favorite toy. So
Yeah, oh yeah, that too. Him and
he
Buzz
takes the lead.
Yeah, but it's always Woody.
Yeah. So yeah, the movie is about Andy.
Oh, do we want to talk more about some of the other cast members?
Ah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, then you got Jessie. She's probably like the third.
Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't have as much to do in this movie as the second one, but and then
All the rest of the toys, other than Buzz and Woody, are pretty, like, all their roles are pretty even.
I suppose we'll talk more about them in spoilers because you can't. Not that they have much to do, but the things that they do.
Yeah.
You know, and what happens in the story, we won't talk too much about here, but basically all the actors came back except, I can't remember the name of the actor who used to voice him, but Slinky Dog, his voice actor passed away, and he was replaced by Blake Clark, who, I didn't know that until I looked into the movie. Never would have guessed. Blake Clark, off the top of my head, he was in, not Happy Madison, that's the studio, The Waterboy.
Yeah.
He was the coach or helper or trainer or whatever that nobody could understand, and he was the basketball coach in Grown Ups. That's all I really know him from.
Yeah. He did a really good job. Like, I didn't notice
Yeah.
that. I'm sure if you watched the first two and then watched the third one, you would notice, but I think...
I don't reckon. I think they had a voice comparison in the behind the scenes, and I think he's might be like a little bit higher,
but he's pretty spot on enough that you wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
We didn't notice that it was somebody different until we watched the behind the scenes.
Yeah, and Slinky Dog is in the movie a decent bit. You know, he doesn't have many lines, but he's like, when he does talk, it's sort of consistently throughout.
Yeah.
You know, he's always saying stuff and doing stuff.
So all the main toys from the first two carried over onto this one. Obviously, they lost some toys through the years, but yeah.
Yeah, which we'll get into in spoilers, but
so yeah,
to
basically
jam this podcast back onto the tracks.
yeah, basically Toy Story 3, the basic concept is just obviously Andy's grown up, he's going to college, the toys feel sad because they haven't been played with in a while. They're on their way to finding a new purpose.
Yeah. Won't say much more than that.
Yeah. Watch
but,
the movie if
you
haven't already, which you probably have.
Yeah, I would be amazed if somebody listening to this, if anybody's going to listen to this.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, our mums.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the basic stuff about the movie is the theme, I should say.
Yeah.
Is growing up and moving on.
Yep.
If you like animated adventures,
Watch this movie.
I mean, we've got two kids who loved this movie.
Yeah, we watched it with them and they had a really good time watching this movie.
Yeah, and there's not much we can say too much about what they thought. I mean, they're little.
Yeah.
But without spoiling it,
Yeah.
because there was some specific stuff. But you said I was a proper work, and you said that they couldn't keep their eyes off the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it's a kids movie, and that's what you really want. But
tick of approval from them.
yeah, but it never feels like it's a kids movie. I can't remember where I heard it, but there's a difference between kids movies and family movies, and I feel like this is a family movie.
It's definitely one of those movies you can watch with your kids, and you're also having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few jokes that'll go over their head, rightly so, but nothing too overt. You know, there's nothing that your kids will go, hey, what does that mean? And then you have to sit them down and have the birds and the bees talk.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, well...
That's our non-spoiler review.
Yep, we'll just get right into it.
So this is the spoiler review now.
So, yes, it's spoilers from now on. You've been warned.
Yep, no
Go
complaints.
watch the movie. It goes for an hour and a half or so.
Yeah.
Come back, listen to this, or... Yeah, all right. So, it opens with a Western. I can't remember the exact opening shot, but Woody steps out onto the scene.
Yep.
And there's a train chase. He's chasing some horrible creature called
Mm.
One-Eyed Bart, played in, as we'll find out, is a pretend Mr. Potato Head.
This opening scene, the kids really enjoyed. Like, they
Yeah.
were just glued to the screen the whole time, and I think that opening scene is a really good representation of
Imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what, how a kid who's playing with the toys
Yeah.
sees how they're playing and how
Yeah.
they picture it and
Mm.
all that sort of stuff. When, you know, it's Woody, Sheriff Woody, being like a proper sheriff, and Jesse, his deputy, and their horse Bullseye starting to track down One-Eyed Bart, and there's goes from a train, and then that falls, but Buzz, then all of a sudden there's a space ranger
Yeah.
lifts up the train with his jetpack and saves them, and then they go on, and then uh, they have a One-Eyed Bart's wife gets him. She's Mrs. Potato Head,
Yeah.
and they have a force field. So Jesse calls a T-Rex, and then the T-Rex attacks the force field, and then
There's just a lot going on.
yeah, and then they call the pig.
Yeah, he comes down from the sky.
He has
or
a
something.
spaceship,
Yeah.
and then picks him up, and then, I think it's like a blimp or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then the monkey, I can't remember what they're called, but like they're meant to be like those link monkeys, like
Oh yeah, they
yeah, but like a billion of them come
Yeah.
across like a tidal wave and wipe out the dinosaur, and they run away, and then I can't remember what happened. Oh, the triplets save them, and it's just this escalation of just all this crazy
just
stuff.
full on action packed for like
Exactly what a kid would be thinking. Yeah, then
when
this
they're
happens
playing.
and this happens,
Yeah.
and then it all comes crumbling down when Andy's toddler sister barges through all
Yeah.
the toys, and we come out, and it's just all the toys like smacked together, and that's how he plays, and it's a recording
Yeah.
his mum was filming.
Yeah.
I wrote there, I would watch an entire movie.
Yeah.
I would watch a series of movies set in that crazy world where it would just be,
just craziness all the time.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I like how, like, in that, when his sister comes in, Molly, and she crashes everything down, and the mum's like, oh, no, 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 and he's like, oh, it's all right, and adds her into the play.
Yeah.
And then after that recording, it cuts to where Andy is.
Well, it doesn't cut straight away. It shows you like a montage of over the years.
Over the years, yeah. And then, but I just noticed, like, when it comes back to, like, now, with Andy and Molly, and their relationship has just changed so much, like, gone
Yeah.
from playing together and stuff, and to now she's all, like, sassy, and she's got her earphones in, and she's, like,
Yeah.
talking about getting his room and all that.
Well,
It's just so accurate.
There's a pretty big age gap between them. He'd be like, I don't know.
In the movie, I think she's, like,
He'd be like 7, 8, 9 sort of age in the first few movies, and then he's 17 or 17 or 18 in the third one. And I think she was just a little baby in the first one.
she could, yes.
It doesn't line up entirely from 1995 to 2010, because if
Yeah.
it was 15 years from the first one, he'd be in his 20s.
Yeah,
Just like the actor is, John Morris.
yeah.
There's a song playing over it. Is it You've Got a Friend in Me? I can't remember. I'll put a clip in of what the song is, but it's
Yeah.
quite nice. And it gets to the present day of the movie, and they're
Toys are desperately trying to...
they're enacting a plan
Yep.
with a phone, and it's a desperate ploy to be played with,
Yep.
because nobody knows that toys are alive in this world.
I don't know how they don't know. Like, there's so many times where I'm like, come on.
It's just
You...
general conceit of the movie.
I
think.
know. You
Yeah.
just got to ignore it.
If
Ignore logic.
yeah, I'm glad that it never gets addressed. I think the only time it ever does is in the first movie. They reveal themselves to the bully neighbor Sid.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah, other
freaking
than
out.
that, it's not...
it's just
There's
a lot
no
of them
times
hiding.
where they, like, reveal themselves to the humans.
There is one bit in this movie where it almost happens, where the janitor in the
Yeah.
daycare is cleaning, and he sees Woody in the mirror, and he's like, "What's
It's
that?"
times like that when
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
You would have seen that.
But how does a rational mind get around that? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
true.
these toys are just getting up. Because you would just exterminate every toy that you came across.
Yeah. Well, like yeah, I suppose.
My mind, like, I'm fairly skeptical, of otherworldly stuff, but
Mm.
I'm not close-minded to any of it. I want to believe, but if I saw that, my first thought isn't, oh, wonderful magic and playtime and kids. That's a demon.
No,
That
no.
is a demon, and it's gonna die.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be really freaky.
Mm.
But ever since Toy Story first came, I always just look at the toys and I'm like, are you gonna move? Like, that's always in your mind.
Do you ever put the kids' toys in like specific positions?
Yeah, and then come back
like,
later.
I'll be like, I'll remember this. And yeah.
You like walk down the hallway and then quickly run back, see if it's moved.
There's something wrong with us.
Yeah. Surely everyone does that.
Yeah. Do you have any notes on like that first bit anymore?
Just that the kids loved it. I also wrote like, how have the toys never been caught? Because they're just running around.
They are very risky.
Calling the dog.
In the first couple, I don't. Other than that bit in the first one, it's not really a big risk. Like, they're able to hide more. I think that they focus on it a bit more here because it's like, I think in the first, no, not in the first one, the second one, the toys just leave the house, and then they like hide in things and whatever, and it's all just sort of, you don't think about it. But this one, I definitely think there were more times where they had to hide from people or drop or whatever.
It was super risky.
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't seen those first two in a while. So.
Yeah, me neither.
I've just written Woody is so selfish, needs therapy.
Yeah.
I think that was about when all the other toys are like, look, we've just got to move on. This is just what happens. Kids get older, and it's our job. Why it's their job, we'll never know. But it's a toy's job to be
Played with.
No, that's what Woody says. It's not about being played with. It's about being there for Andy. But he's wrong. It is about being played with.
Yeah.
Well, that's this movie's whole thing. It is about being played with.
Doesn't matter by who.
Yeah, don't linger on who it's with.
Yeah.
Or loyalty or anything like that, because the kid doesn't really care. They might have that attachment to you, but
eventually they grow up and they're gonna let you go.
Yeah, and not every kid keeps their toys like Andy did.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my toys, I think I have a couple of ones from when I was a kid that I kept aside, but mostly to share them with my kids. But a lot of them went to my nephews. I had all big heaps of toys. I had toys for ages, probably much longer than you're supposed to when you're a kid. But
Yeah, but I can see why you would say he's selfish, but also if you've lived so long being so loyal to Andy, and you're always his number one favorite toy, you would always want to be loyal to him and
I get that.
stay with him.
No, I get. That's why I said he needs therapy, because he just needs to work through. Well, I mean, he gets it.
He learns it through the movie.
It's forced upon him, but not everybody can go on a wild adventure and learn their lesson. Some people just are traumatized.
Just got to do it. That was so...
I forgot that he calls the dog again. Just a callback to the second movie. They get a puppy. Oh, they get a puppy at the end of the first one that you don't see until the second one.
Yeah.
And they call it, and he goes on like this little adventure in the second one. And then this time, he calls the dog.
Yeah.
And it's like a few seconds, and then this old grey
old, fat.
sausage dog comes in, and it's like, and he's like, let's go. And it just falls over.
Yeah, the kids just cracked up at that.
It's very funny. I love that. And then so there's Andy's mum is like, oh, you gotta throw out your stuff, put stuff in the attic, and take stuff to college with you. And he's got a few days, but it's bin day. I have a few things that are confusing about how the trash man, rubbish man, garbage man, whatever you want to call it, situation works in this, because they just seem to be always going. So I don't know where these guys live.
It's like bin day every day in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sort of works that way where we live.
Yeah, but it's the same guys, like...
Yeah.
Driving the...
Well, I suppose you don't want to just work one day a week. I think
true.
the weird part is that it's specifically the same guy that we see
Yeah.
multiple times. I think that's a bit coincidental, but especially because where they, as we'll get to, where they get picked up from, right, that's a dump spot. But where they get picked up from later on in the movie at the daycare, that dumps at the same spot when it's this huge, big,
Bin.
no, not bin, tip, dump, whatever you want to call
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it just
At the
seemed,
end.
it just seemed a little bit contrived or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, that they got back to that truck where that guy was going, and how long, I thought the movie went for like 3 days, but
Well,
that
that's
would
what I was
be,
just gonna say. Like, how many days is this set over?
I got the impression that it was about 3 or 4 days, but if he's going back to Andy's house, who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I would say it's like a day or two because
it's
he
more than
packs
one
up his
day.
room. And
He's
packs up
leaving
his
on
room.
Friday,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't say I'm leaving on Friday if it was Friday. You
True.
would say I'm not leaving until next week.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
So it's like 1 to 3 days.
Yeah. And it doesn't go over any weekends because the daycare still runs.
Yeah.
And our kids' daycare. where they are
Unfortunately,
now.
does not run on the weekend.
Yeah, so there's a mix-up somehow.
Well, he puts all his toys in the
I
trash
wasn't going to go
bag.
into full detail.
Yeah, so it's pretty safe for his mum to assume that that's rubbish.
Yeah. There's a mix up with the bags, and it's pretty believable. But the bag with the toys, all but Woody,
Yep.
he has a bit where he's Buzz Woody, picks Woody,
Of
taking
course.
Woody to college. It makes sense. That's the
Yeah.
one he's had
Yeah,
for
yeah.
forever. I don't know if he was contemplating taking just one or both of them, or you know. Then Woody sees the bag get taken downstairs, put on the thing, and that's when he has the thing with the dog. Goes to save them, but they've saved themselves, and they are like, "Oh, let's go to the daycare." Not
Yeah.
that they don't know what daycare is, but they've heard it talked about with, you know, any toys you don't want, chuck them in this box, and the mum says, "I'll take them to Sunnyside."
Yeah.
Sounds nice, right? Jesse is like, "Yeehaw! I got an idea." And then they go in, they trash talk Andy for a while. Then, before Woody can leave, because they're like, "It's all right, Woody, you go to daycare, you're the favourite toy, no
Yeah.
hard feelings."
And Buzz sort of takes the lead.
Yeah, him and Jesse instantly just step up
Yeah.
as soon, especially Buzz.
Yeah.
Or it's sort of, Woody's like, he makes the ideas and does the stuff, but as soon as he's not there, Jesse is like the ideas person and Buzz is the action.
Yeah,
Go, like,
strategic.
Yeah. Then, the mum, not that she knows, accidentally takes them all to Sunnyside. Just thinks it's just random toys, doesn't know it's Andy's favourite toys in the world that he kept in a toy chest, and it's the only sort of little kid thing in his room. You know,
Yeah, so she takes him to Sunnyside, drops the box off, and that's when we see Bonnie. That's when we're introduced to her.
oh yeah, so I was thinking Molly, but that's his little sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we see Bonnie, and she's intrigued by the toys, but her mum, I think she works there, the mum, because she was behind the
Yeah,
desk.
I think that's pretty obvious.
Well,
And
but then she leaves halfway through the day.
yeah.
Yeah, and
And it's also confusing at the beginning because Bonnie goes to the same daycare, but you don't get that vibe when you're watching it because she's just sitting on the desk while her mum's working. So you think, oh, she's just brought her child to daycare. But
Yeah.
it must have been in the morning just before it started or whatever, and they were just doing computer work, and then she must drop Bonnie off. Who knows? But anyway, Bonnie goes to the daycare.
yeah. Then,
The toys end up in, is it the butterfly room?
yeah, they get,
First.
Bonnie's mum has a look at the toys, and rightfully so, says, "All right, I'll chuck these in the butterfly room." The butterfly meaning kids that are like 3, 4,
Yeah.
I think before
Like
kindergarten.
late toddler.
Because they describe the other ones as toddlers in the caterpillar room, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But that's the butterfly room, and they all play nice and that. And most kids are like that, but we'll get into it. They're trying to have a look, and they accidentally knock the box off of the shelf when there's no one in there. And there's so many toys in there.
Yeah, then we're introduced to a lot more
Yeah.
toys.
And they're like, "Woo, new toys, yeah!" And, you know, it's like, these toys could be, like, there could be another Toy Story going on out there with all these sorts of toys.
There's a lot of toys.
You don't get the sense that there's like all that the Toy Story toys are all these like cool, unique toys. Every toy feels real. It doesn't feel like they just did a basic design and were like whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought put into every design.
Yeah.
And
They're not just background toys. Like,
yeah, and the head toys of the daycare, because it is effectively a prison.
true.
Every toy they were talking about, I didn't really write it down because it's not that important, but every toy in that sort of gang, or the head, the inner circle, all serves a different purpose. You know, like some are muscle and some are brains, some are like the face of it all, like Lotso and Ken are like, they're like the faces, and Ken's like the second in command, and he's much more, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got like Big Baby, who is
The creepiest thing ever. I wrote that down. I was like, baby is creepy AF.
yeah. Well, why don't we go, because he gets introduced a few minutes later. But so there's all these new toys, and there's some that's, like I said, sort of just match up to the Toy Story toys, like a robot with Buzz, and Jesse with what's his name, Brick or something like that. Oh, we got it here. The one, he's like face changes from happy to angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and Mrs. Potato Head is like, oh, insectoid man, or whatever his name is, like, you got big muscles, and
And Barbie and Ken.
Oh yes, Barbie, who's not Andy's toy for any
No, Molly's toy.
Any people worrying out about that? Andy's not playing with that. No. I think he did though in the when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Kids should play with whatever toys they want.
Yeah, but that was Molly's toy that she put in the sunny side box.
Yeah. For there's mention of, she's not in this movie, but there's Bo Peep. I just wanted to say, I always thought Bo Peep with her sheep was Andy's toy. I didn't find out until the fourth one that she's actually not even a toy. She just comes as part of Molly's lamp. But that was Woody's romantic interest, and he's like, I think he's pretty quietly messed up by it, because that was his love interest in the first two. I think they even kiss in the second one or something like that. They have quite a bit of, and
I thought she was part of Andy's toys as well.
that's what I mean. I always was like, oh cool, he just plays, and I wouldn't say that I'm not really a big believer in like, oh, that's a girl's toy and that's a boy's toy. I think some things are definitely marketed towards girls and some marketed towards boys, and that's fine. But
I never thought twice about him playing with Bo Peep.
Or Barbie.
Yeah.
In the original, I think there's Barbies in that, and I was always just like, yeah, whatever. They're just toys. But, yeah, we see Molly throw Barbie. Like, she looks at her for a second, and you think it's going to be like the moment with Andy, with Woody.
Yeah.
And she just goes,
She just
nah.
chucks it in the box. But yeah, Barbie and Ken.
They hit it off.
Yep,
there.
obviously.
Oh, awesome song. I love the song that comes on.
Yeah. Dreamboat.
No.
No.
Title, Dreamweaver.
Yeah, that song plays.
Yeah, that song plays when
Very
he sees,
appropriate.
Yeah, when he sees Barbie, and it's like we were made for each other and all that. Then they meet Lotso, Lotso Huggin' Bear, voiced excellently by Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
No, sorry, that's Ken. Looking at the wrong one. I was going to say Michael Keaton voices Ken. I had no idea. Not a clue that Michael, that is? Yeah. I had no idea that he voiced Ken.
Isn't he usually a bad guy?
Ken?
No, Michael Keaton in movies.
No.
Like when I think of him,
He was Batman. He's usually... It's hard. I don't think he really does good guy, bad guy stuff much anymore. He's usually just a weird guy.
There must be a movie where he's a bad guy that just
for
triggers
sure.
my memory.
Well, in this,
Ken.
yeah.
Well,
He's a bad guy up until the end.
He's not really a bad guy though. He's just
He
following.
does bad stuff.
But he's just following what he's been told.
Okay, sorry.
It's
Air
like a cult.
quotes, bad guy. Well, it's more like a gang or a prison than a cult, because they're not all like, ooh, Lotso, and they're worshipping him. They're all like,
True.
yeah, it feels good to be in power. So, sorry, Ned Beatty voices Lotso, and he is the supposedly benevolent leader, so to speak, of Sunnyside. Why they need a leader, who knows?
I know.
It's not like in Andy's room where they need somebody to who's the favorite toy. Lotso's
Yeah.
just another toy, but he's the leader, and he's this. He's a hugger, and he's nice.
Yeah,
and
but I don't know how they did it, but as soon as I saw him on screen, I just felt uncomfortable. I just got weird vibes.
I knew he was. I mean, I was 15 or so when this movie came out. Straight away, you're like, that guy's dodgy.
Yeah. Must be the voice.
Well, Ned Beatty did voice the thing I most recognize him from is Rango. He's a bit more explicitly a bad guy in that. Like he plays the mayor in Rango.
Same sort of vibe though. Like he starts off.
Yeah.
You think good.
Lotso Huggin' Bear.
Yeah.
And, he comes in for a hug, and he seems like he just has it all figured out, and he's looking after all of them, and he makes it clear to them.
Big Papa.
Yeah.
Daddy Lotso.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was watching the behind the scenes stuff. They said to him to put emphasis on that New Orleans southern drawl. Like he really hams it up in Rango. I think when he's like Rango.
Yeah.
But in this, it's not as much. He is more friendly.
Yeah.
In this.
So you got donated by this Andy, huh? Well, it's his loss, Sheriff. He can't hurt you no more.
Whoa.
Now let's get you all settled in. Ken, where is that boy?
So yeah, then they get taken to the caterpillar room, and he explains how daycare works. You'll never run out of kids. When these kids get older, new kids come through. It's an endless cycle of being played with.
And they're ecstatic about that.
The daycare is like paradise. Well, that's the way he describes it.
Yeah.
And he takes them through to the caterpillar room. That's when we meet Big Baby, who is one of those cheap
dolly babies.
Yeah, with the funny eyes that you can open and close, and just an old school one. Like he's clearly very old and haggard, but he doesn't talk, and he is just a big baby. He's like a great big dumb brute.
Is he a male?
I don't think you're meant to worry.
No,
about
it doesn't really matter.
Well, I don't know.
Let's just say baby.
Yeah, big baby.
Yeah, it's just baby is like Lotso's
enforcer.
Yeah, like Dwight to Michael.
Oh, yeah. That's an Office reference for anybody who doesn't know. Kind of like, geez, I can't think of anything. The first thing that came to mind for me was like Master Blaster. Like Lotso is the brains of the operation, and Big Baby is the brawn.
Yeah.
That's Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, for anybody who doesn't know, and how dare you if you don't know. But yeah, he's just Big Baby is just a big, dumb baby.
Yeah.
With very basic emotions and doesn't have any lines other than like, goo, goo, gaga, and
Yeah,
stuff
just some
like that.
weird, creepy laughs.
Yeah, and one eye on Big Baby is all like messed up, and whatever. I'm just gonna say he.
Okay.
He's got this bottle that it's meant to symbolize like he's an alcoholic, I think. 'Cause when he's introduced, he's drinking from it. He's like, and then opens the door. That's what I got, is that he's so depressed, and he's just like got drunk brain forever.
So does baby stay in the caterpillar room?
No, I don't think that he gets played with.
He was just like, because there's a
He's in the
bath.
toilet.
Yeah, a bathroom that separates the two rooms, like joins them. He was just in there, like that's a bit. He just gets tossed to the side, I guess. Nobody really wants
Who
to
would wanna
play with that creepy
thing?
ass baby.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So baby and Lotso take.
Lotso says they came in together. Yeah. Then they go to the caterpillar room where It's the really young kids' room.
Yeah, and Andy's toys are all just so pumped. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, hell yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to get played with all day, every day. This is the best.
Yeah, and that's where Woody says his goodbyes.
Mm.
You know, he's like, have fun, you guys. Looks like this is great, but I've got to
I'm
get
not
back
staying.
to Andy.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all like, yeah, fair enough. You know,
Mm.
he still wanted you. They're all very much of the belief still that Andy was going to throw them in the bin. That
Yeah.
he even calls them junk at one point, which is like that typical, oh, don't worry about them, Mum. They're just
Yeah.
junk.
I don't have emotions. I'm a teenage boy.
Typical 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And they're all so excited to be played with. The bell rings. They all sort of
I
scatter
love
off.
this scene, yeah.
And yeah, it's like straight out of a horror movie. Buzz looks around and he sees all the toys that are normally there. Actual like little kids' toys that can handle that. Like
Yeah.
they're made out of different material.
They
And they're all
just
hiding and
scatter away
shivering and like look like they're about to start crying. And he's like, and Rex, who is voiced by Wallace Shawn. He's little guy from The Princess Bride that says inconceivable. You'll recognize his voice straight away, but he
stands in the
like
doorway.
at the door.
Yeah, because he's like the one who's the most excited to get played with again, I reckon.
Yeah, and he's real dumb.
Yeah. So he just stands in the doorway, and then the kids bust open the door and come running in, and I see like that second before the kids pick up the toys, Buzz pushes the button and his shield goes down, and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the toys just get manhandled, like smashed into stuff, painted on. Rex has
Licked.
licked. Rex has his tail pulled out. The potato heads have like Play-Doh and all sorts put through them, and all their arms and legs ripped off. It's like something out of a horror movie. You know, these kids. First of all, what is wrong with these kids?
I know, right?
Like, the people who made this movie think that the kids are just a bunch of wild animals until they turn 3.
Like, toddlers are a bit insane, but this movie just goes full on, and like the score in the background is full on, like horror music. It just really sets the scene.
Yeah, because like I've seen kids play that age. Our kids, one of them's just older than that, and our youngest.
Is around that age,
They
yeah.
don't play like that. They
No.
don't like sometimes.
They're a bit rough, yeah.
But the educators at the daycare are like, whoa.
Not
take it-
educators. There was only
Oh
one.
yeah, I meant for our kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're like, whoa, like take it easy there. Don't destroy everything. But no, it's just craziness.
In this movie, there's one educator to like 10 kids, just
Yeah.
going absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Woody makes his way out through the bathroom, the faculty or adult bathroom toilet, and that's where the janitor almost sees him, and he makes it onto the roof, and he finds a kite. It's a very daring escape. It's quite cool. It's so interesting to me how later in the movie, Lotso's like, nobody can leave. But there, he's like, yeah, see you later, Woody. I think that maybe he knew he was the leader.
Yeah,
so-
but I also think during the day it would have been easier because easier to escape
Yeah.
without the toys
Yeah, I
holding Woody
suppose.
back.
Because they only hold him prisoner at night and outside of office hours.
Yeah, and Woody left from the caterpillar room. Oh no, he didn't go there.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did. Yeah, and then
went
he
in
left
and
from
was
there.
like,
So he,
yeah, this all seems good, and then
yeah, and he
skedaddled.
wasn't really near Lotso, and he couldn't do anything because he knew the kids were coming back.
Yeah, and I think that a few things came into play there, like Lotso was like, yeah, whatever, it's just one toy, and it's daytime, and that's clearly the leader.
Yeah.
You know, so if he goes, I think Lotso might have known, like, that was my biggest competition.
And he's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So also he's got to keep up that act until they play up.
Yeah.
So yeah, Woody makes his escape. Bing bang boom, gets caught in a tree, loses his hat, and Bonnie finds him as her and her mum are leaving, because this is only a lot of this stuff is happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Maybe Bonnie didn't attend daycare that day. Like that wasn't.
she had
one
a
of-
backpack.
Just with toys though, just to play with them. I think.
Yeah. So she finds Woody and is like, hell yeah, chucks him in a bag, takes her back to her house, and then he gets played with properly, very nicely. Bonnie is a very good kid in terms of playing and imagination.
yeah.
She's very much like Andy was, comes up with stories and is very imaginative. A lot less like action, but she is a bit younger.
Yeah, like she plays like high tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then we obviously get introduced to a few more toys, Bonnie's toys.
yeah.
Trixie, Buttercup.
There's Mr. Pricklepants, voiced by Timothy frickin' Dalton. 007, man, he was Skinner in...
Really?
Yes, he was Simon Skinner in Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. That toy, I just like erased from my memory because
He's the one
he
who
was just so boring to
He
me.
takes everything super seriously.
Yeah,
He's an actor.
I just thought he was boring, but yeah, Trixie and Buttercup, I think the other two were. And then
Buttercup is the unicorn, voiced by Jeff Garlin. I can't think of anything that he's in, but he's one of those guys that's just in everything. Daddy Daycare. He's the other guy.
Oh, yeah.
You'll recognize his voice straight away. Bonnie Hunt is Dolly. She's the leader. She's the Woody.
Yeah.
You don't get that sense so much in this movie, but in 4, you sort of see it at the end of the movie. Kristen Shaw, I don't know how to say her last name, voices Trixie, the Triceratops. You will have heard her voice in a billion things.
It's very distinct.
Yeah, she was Mabel in Gravity Falls. That's the only thing I can think of right this second, but she's in everything.
Yeah. And then also there was a bit of a homage.
Yeah.
Totoro, you didn't notice, but yeah, from My Neighbor Totoro, which you didn't really...
Studio Ghibli or Ghibli?
Studio Ghibli, yeah. He was just one of the sort of background toys.
Yeah.
But I took notice to that.
Yeah.
Because he's got that
Bloody look at you.
big grinning smile.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's...
There was peas, 3 peas in a pod.
Oh yeah.
So
that was like a little pencil case thing.
Yeah. So I think that's like the pod because the peas fit perfectly in there. So it's like, Trixie matches up with Rex, Dolly matches up with Woody, then like Buttercup and Mr. Pricklepants are similar to like Ham and Mr. Potato Head and that sort of thing, and then Peas in the Pod are similar to who I'd forgotten about,
the
triplets.
Little,
Were they?
They don't really say much. They're in the movie.
Were they with them at the daycare? Because I don't remember them.
I think they were.
They must have been because at the dump scene we'll get to it.
I
but
think
they're there.
I think they're in the whole movie, but they don't say or do much. So you
that's
sort of
weird.
they come in and out.
Yeah.
But I remember noticing that too. I was like, wait, where did they come from?
I think that's all of her toys.
So it's like Bonnie's version of...
Yeah, and she's
Toy
got
Story.
a few less because, kids build up toys that they really like over time. And, all the toys have their own little role to play. Like one of their toys is always the bad guy. Like Ham and Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head, they're always the bad guys in Andy's things. Even though he loves the toys and plays them, they're always the bad guys. And Woody, Buzz, Jesse... Rex is either way, I think, and Bullseye, the horse, they're always the good guys.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I was that way when I was a kid. I always had toys where I was like...
Bad guys, yeah.
And it's funny that Bonnie's bad guy is Dolly, even though that's her favourite toy.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So we see...
really spot on kids play. And I thought that was a really wholesome scene. Like, it was just such nice... playtime, maybe because Bonnie's a girl and girls just play better than boys, but it's so nice to see.
Yeah, so we see a little bit of her playing with Woody and the other toys, and Woody sort of interacts with the other ones and is like, where am I?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and they're like, he's not a sheriff, he doesn't even have a hat. And that's when he's like, oh, my hat's missing. Remember that for later, that he lost his hat. Not much else happens there, but then back to the caterpillar room. It's the end of the day. Andy's toys are all like, what the hell?
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, there was a bunch of monsters came out and hit us. My only criticism, one of my only criticisms of the whole movie, is there's not really any new or interesting toys in the caterpillar room. You know, there's the phone later who hides and the kids don't play with him.
Yeah.
And he's like the old guy who's in the prison and he knows everyone and, you know, they'll never break him. We'll get to that. But there wasn't like...
We don't see any of the other toys in that room.
They never interact with them. There's no scene where they're like, oh, you know, hi, I'm little bouncy ball thing.
I guess you could
Sucks
say
to be you.
they're so traumatized and beaten that they
Yeah.
don't feel, you know...
I know that if a toy doesn't have a mouth, they can't talk. And maybe that's it, that there's no, like, dolls or anything like that. They're all balls and inanimate object style toys that they don't really talk, so they didn't waste their time. Whereas all of Andy's toys are not toys that little kids should be playing with.
No.
Especially the potato heads. The fact that this movie didn't just segue into a lawsuit where one of the kids choked to death and the parents sued Sunnyside.
Yeah, and Andy's toys are more role-play toys, whereas the toys in the caterpillar room are like interactive toys.
Yeah, sensory toys.
Sensory toys.
Yeah. I'm not correcting you, I'm just like adding on. Oh yeah, Woody's like, oh, this is great. You know, and they're like, where'd you come from? And he's like, oh, I came from, I have a toy, I almost said toy master, I have an owner. But I just came from Sunnyside. And they're like, how'd you escape? And he's like, oh, I was actually, wait a minute, why'd you say escape? And they're like, ask the clown, Bonzo or Bozo or something like that, the clown.
Creepy looking thing.
Yeah, he, as it turns out, I don't think it's got it here. Huh. I think his name's Bozo. It doesn't really matter. He's only in it for a scene and a half.
Yeah.
He is just there to deliver exposition, not in a bad way.
He is the third toy.
Yes, as it's revealed, he is the third toy that was with Baby
And
and
Lotso. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess their story, Lotso and Baby, and we're just calling him Bozo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had an owner, but she lost them.
Oh, Chuckles.
Oh, Chuckles. Bozo.
I think it doesn't say the clown, it just says Chuckles.
Yeah, Chuckles the clown. Yeah, they belonged to somebody else, those three, but they got lost.
Emily?
I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
I can't remember how she lost them.
They were on a road trip or something like that, and they stopped and had a picnic under a big tree, and she was playing with them, and she fell asleep. The toys were like somewhere else.
Yeah.
She must have like put them somewhere, then come around to eat, lay down. She was very young. You know, she had a little cuddly bear, a little cuddly clown, and a little baby as her toy. So she was quite young. Fell asleep. The parents put her in the car. By the time that the three toys got back to the house, they were pretty haggard looking, and Lotso
they had to go on an this adventure to get back to.
didn't look like a bloody adventure. It looked like a sad,
Yeah.
sad movie.
Yeah.
Pizza truck cameo in all the Pixar movies. The pizza truck, they're riding on the back of it. It hits a pothole. They get knocked out just at the house, luckily.
Yeah. They go walk back to the house and they look in the window to see that. Oh, Lotso looks in the window.
Yeah, he gets Baby to lift him up.
Yeah, and he sees that she's replaced him with a new Lotso Huggin' Bear, but she hasn't replaced Baby or Chuckles. But Lotso is
It's a good
very
name.
upset.
Chuckles is such a good name because he's so sad.
Yeah, exactly. He gets very upset and tells the other two that they've been replaced, even though it was just him.
No, Chuckles sees as well.
Does he?
Yeah, Baby lifts Lotso up and then Chuckles, but Baby
Baby
can't get up
doesn't
there.
see, yeah.
And they both see, and he's like, Lotso's like, she replaced us, and Chuckles says, no, she just replaced you. And I can't remember if he hits him or if he tells him to shut up. And then Baby's like touching his little necklace thing that says, my heart belongs
Daisy.
to Daisy.
That's her name, yeah.
Emily was Jesse's owner, I think.
Okay, yeah. Daisy.
Because there's a lot of parallels to Lotso especially, and Lotso and Big Baby are like Jesse and Bullseye wasn't with Jesse. Was he? I can't remember. But so in Toy Story 2, Jesse has a very similar story to Lotso, and also very similar to what's going on with Andy. At first, Emily loves Jesse. It's Andy and Woody, right? Pretty much. Then Emily gets older, drops Jesse underneath her bed, and never picks her up again. And so Jesse just hightails it out of there, or gets sold or something. But she moves on in one way or another, but her thing is like breaking out of that sad feeling and all that. And Lotso instead turns evil.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's right. They don't get knocked off the thing to the house. They get knocked off the truck.
To Sunnyside.
To Sunnyside.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They like trek back to the house in the rain and
And then after that, they're just like, ooh, I don't know what we're gonna do now. And they end up at Sunnyside. Lotso turns it into a prison, becomes like the Godfather, like whatever. And Chuckles gets taken by Bonnie's mum and stitched up because he gets broken.
Yeah.
Gets out of there.
He's at Bonnie's house and he's just sitting on the
windowsill.
Yeah, the kitchen windowsill. And so, yeah, Woody's like, what do you mean escape? And then they say go talk to him. So they go talk to him and he's not the smiley clown that he used to be.
Yeah.
He's a frowny clown. And he tells the story of what all happened and all that. Woody's like, oh, shit. Better go save my friends.
And he gives Woody Big Baby's necklace that
Name
says,
tag,
My heart belongs to Daisy.
Yeah.
It's not a name tag because his name isn't Daisy. It's her. It's like your owner thing.
Yeah. Owner name tag.
So he's like, we've got to get back there. They get on the computer. I just wrote Woody buggers off yet again. Like goes back there. I had originally he's going to go back to Andy's house.
Yeah.
But then he goes back to Sunnyside. He hops in Bonnie's bag. She goes to daycare, evidently. That's where I wrote Toy Story is an existential nightmare. Because these toys, just their whole purpose in life, in heavy quotes, is to service kids and be played with. They don't live a life of their own. They go into that in the next movie, but anyway, it's all about the kids.
Yeah.
Overnight, while Woody's discovering that stuff, like about Lotso, which happens after this scene, we've sort of bounced around here.
Yeah.
Lotso is revealed as the bad guy.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, they hatch a plan. Oh, we'll go talk to Lotso, but all the doors are locked, so they do some cool stuff. Buzz gets out there, yada, yada, yada. Sneaks his way along, and there's like a poker game sort of thing going on with this spin animal noise toy.
In the drink vending machine.
Is it in the vending machine?
Yeah, up
I
the
thought it
top.
was in the vent. Oh, yeah, it is too. Yeah, that's right. How did Big Baby get up there?
Who knows?
Anyway, it's up there, and that's when it's revealed that Chunk, was that one, his face, which he's like a big piece of wood, Ken, the Mantis toy, I think his name is Mantis, the octopus, I think the octopus and Ken are like equal. It's like Lotso, then them two, then down from there.
Yeah.
Because they seem to be pretty equally in it. And the others don't have as many lines. The octopus, I think, is voiced by Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, I think so.
Why? It was great. You know, it does a good job. But I did not know that. Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg. Stretch. There's one here named Twitch. I don't know who that is. Doesn't matter. Buzz gets kidnapped. There's a cool scene where the librarian, or whatever they call him, comes out and gives him the manual on Buzz Lightyear.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's, you know, they find out all their info. Oh, yeah, Lotso still, like, sort of keeps up the facade for a sec that he's like, no, we don't do this, and ups the others. And it seems like Ken is the leader.
Yeah.
When Buzz is like, no, we gotta get my toys out of there. Because they're like, yeah, Buzz is pretty cool, he's pretty useful.
Yeah, let's take him to the butterfly room.
Yeah, but Buzz is like, it's
Make
all of us or none
nothing,
of us.
yeah.
And then they're like, all right, lobotomy.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. Like,
Reset.
like, yeah, they put him on demo mode.
Yeah.
So he's in character. He loses all of his memories. He actually thinks that they're all aliens and he's back at Star Command and all that, and
on a
Lotso's his
mission.
commanding officer, and he's now a prison guard or whatever. That's what he
Yeah.
thinks now. Like, he fully thinks. He doesn't
yeah.
look around and goes, oh, this is clearly a daycare.
No, he's back in that mindset of
Yeah.
how he was in the first movie, where he's just on a mission to
Yeah.
do what he needs to do.
But he's stuck there.
Yeah.
They can't snap him out of it. Like in the first one, he's able to grow and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's essentially a lobotomy. I said a lobotomy or brain damage. I didn't have many notes after this. They all get put into like a prison sort of style thing.
Yeah.
Woody comes back. He meets this toy who's like a telephone toy who's like, I've been here for years. I'm institutionalized. They'll never break me. You know, and he gives Woody the whole rundown on how it all works.
Yeah.
The trucks and stuff do patrols in the halls and out in the yard. There's toys with torches. There's symbols. Is that what they're called? A monkey with the symbols.
Yeah,
I think, and claps together, and he's like.
he
claps
watches
together.
the cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to make sure.
Perfect monkey, by the way.
Our youngest was
The noise
so.
that I did.
Oh yeah. Our youngest was so scared of the
Yeah.
monkey. He just like started crying. The
It's-
monkey is like freaky.
I think it's supposed to be like intimidating because it's anytime it sees anything, it's just like screams.
Yeah, like,
yeah. I might put in a clip of the noise.
Yeah.
It screams and smashes things together, and the toy it shows like a little
to alert the
it shows like a little thing of all these toys trying to escape and them getting captured and all that.
what I thought is like in the room where he's watching all the TVs, that's obviously cameras. And I was like, do these cameras record? Because that's usually what security cameras do. And
Yes.
if they do, the daycare teachers have a very interesting watch in the morning.
Like I said to you, they don't watch it unless there's some reason to watch it.
But that's a pretty big risk. Like, what if something did happen and
But
then
you would see the evidence of it.
the teachers or the humans were like, oh, let's check the security footage. What the hell is this? All our toys are just alive.
Also, you're able to edit that stuff.
But do you think the monkey can do that?
Maybe not the monkey, but someone else could, and the monkey just watches.
Very risky.
Yeah, it's a toy world. But
Anyway, that's
I
just
did
what
have
I
one
thought
thought.
of.
When Buzz Lightyear is in demo mode, the same as in the first movie, how has no toy, especially a Buzz Lightyear style toy, taken over the world? Because he's got like the full strategic thinking of like a fully grown human with all this training and experience, right?
He's like an army man.
But the thing is, you see in the first movie, when Andy shows up, he drops like the rest of them. I think maybe that's part of whatever this is. It's
Yeah.
just an instinct.
Yeah.
But then, like, Woody fought that and all the toys exposed themselves. It's very strange.
Logic aside.
They get put in jail. Woody comes and has a plan to break them out. They do all this stuff. Oh, Barbie takes down Ken, rips up some of his clothes after she gets him to do a fashion show.
Ken is so funny.
He's probably the best character in the
Cool
movie.
and groovy. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, then they get the instruction manual, they go to reset Buzz, they do it for too long, and Spanish Buzz emerges.
I hated this.
I loved it.
I didn't like it. It makes no sense because I've done that many times where you have to get a pencil and put it in that little bit. That's not what it does. It just resets.
Tell me, also, do inanimate objects and toys come alive regularly for you? Because you
Yes.
just said to me, logic
I
aside.
know. But yeah, when I was watching that, I was just like, that's not. It wasn't funny to me. I understand that it was a way for Buzz to like overcome his insecurity and nervousness to talk to Jessie.
Yeah, him and Jesse have a slight romantic
Feelings,
subplot
yeah.
in the movie.
So that was their way to get Buzz to do that. But I didn't like it. I didn't think it was funny. Sorry.
Well, you're wrong.
You thought it was good?
I thought it was great. I think it's a great idea. In the first movie, it's all about Woody and Buzz. In the second movie, Woody is separated and Buzz takes over, and we see how Buzz operates when he's in control. And it's good. It's like a good thing. He's a good leader. And then in this movie, it gets so close to doing the exact same thing as the second one, but they have Buzz go through these different modes, and I think
Yeah.
that's one place where the fourth movie falls short, where they just don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Because he's not a very complicated character. He knows he's like Captain America. Like, he is
Yeah.
essentially
Captain
Captain
America.
America.
Yeah.
You know, he knows what's right. He knows what's what. He's not a very funny guy. He doesn't really make jokes. He doesn't really do anything other than what he thinks is the thing to do, and he's got a very can-do attitude,
Yeah.
and that's it. So,
Very straightforward way of thinking.
yeah, and to have him go through, like, it's basically just a huge identity crisis again, but it's forced on him
Yeah.
with this weird techno
Spanish
lobotomy.
mode.
Yeah, and he gets a different voice actor. They don't get Tim Allen
To learn Spanish.
and because he would just butcher it, I reckon. He's too American sounding. I don't know how you do in Spanish, but
Just like that.
yeah, just like
Yeah, Buzz is stuck in Spanish mode,
I
much to my
don't know where
dislike.
the voice actor for Spanish Buzz doesn't say it here. Should say it. I can't find it now. Anyway, the guy who does it, he does a great job. Javier Fernandez Pena. Doesn't even have a photo on IMDb. Probably not a very famous guy, but he is outstanding as Spanish Buzz. And
Yeah.
he's, like, Buzz's mannerisms all change, and he's they modeled him after a flamenco dancer, I think it's called. And they got a Spanish guy, as it should be if you want something to be done appropriately and, like, proper, faithfully, you know, fumbling on my words, but if you want it to be properly faithful to a certain culture or specific thing, it only makes sense to get somebody who is either an expert in that or lived it, which makes them an expert, or, you know, knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's always just going to come off as false. You know, I always thought, like, wouldn't be hard to figure that out, but you can tell the difference between somebody who's writing characters in a culture or anything like that they don't know about, and it's
Yeah.
all stereotypes and stuff. And yeah, you know, it's all like a joke with Spanish Buzz, but you never feel like they're mocking
Spanish culture, yeah.
the flamenco dancer, and like they were looking into matadors,
Yeah.
and it all felt legit, like that was just that version of the toy, not Buzz Lightyear doing
Pretending,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It only makes sense that in this case, if you want Buzz to be Spanish, to get a Spanish voice actor to do it.
Not just that, like the
And to
person
change.
the person who animated all of his stuff, like he was in charge of just that. Like
Yeah.
he just took care of it all and made it legit. And they
Very
even have a
appropriate.
Spanish version of the theme song, "You've Got a Friend in Me." I'm not going to try and read the title because I'm going to butcher it, but it plays in the credits and it's quite good.
Yeah, so they planned this escape mission around all of Lotso's patrols
Yeah.
to leave the daycare, led by Woody. Yeah, so they do that, and there's this creepy as scene of Baby sitting on the swing staring at the moon,
Oh yeah.
and they have to like sort of go around the baby. I was very uncomfortable in that scene. I don't know why. It was just
think
out
it's
there
creepy.
sitting on the swing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's supposed to be like this, not fully human. Well, I mean, none of them are human, but not fully
Functioning
yeah,
toy. Yeah.
like very basic
Depressed.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, at some point, Mrs. Potato Head, who has been missing an eye the entire movie, when she's looking down the hallway with her other eye, starts to see Andy because it's her eyes linking up, and she sees that Andy didn't mean to throw them away. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll just go back to Andy. We'll go live in the attic. Better
Yeah.
than this. Because that's where they were going to end up originally, in the attic.
So they escape.
Yeah, Ned Beatty is always incredible as a villain. He just has that way about him that you feel he always sounds just right.
Mm.
I mean, I can't remember him from too many other things, but in this, I'll just say then, he is perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect.
Yep. Just, yeah, makes
Yeah.
you uncomfortable.
Mm.
And because he's also a cuddly bear,
Yeah.
you expect him to be this nice, loving, you know,
Mhm.
what he's supposed to be, happy, cuddly
Yeah.
toy, but he's just so evil and cruel,
Yeah. And broken.
manipulative.
Mm.
Yeah, it's all fueled by
Yeah.
heartbreak.
The trick he plays on Andy's toys is before Woody comes back. He plays on him where he heavily implies that they killed Woody, and they show him they show them Woody's hat,
Yeah.
and he throws it in front of him. That's genius. Just like way to dishearten, like, oh yeah, we let Woody escape, but actually we killed him. I thought was perfect. I can't remember what this was about, but I've written Jesse was wrong joke.
Yeah, when Woody comes back earlier on and talks through all the toys again, and Jesse's like, you know, we were wrong. I was wrong. We shouldn't have come here or whatever. And Mr. Potato Head is like, yeah, she was wrong. That was funny.
When I read it, I was like, I remember that being really funny, but I cannot remember what it is. Toy Story 3 Prison Break. Mr. Potato Head has a few horrible, disgusting sequences where there's a thing called the box, and it's a sand pit, and to stop cats and whatever and bugs and stuff, cats from pooping in the sand pit, they'll cover it up, which is smart, and they put them in there overnight, and they can't see anything, and they can't get a grip on anything because of the sand, so they're just trapped in there overnight, and
Yeah.
apparently it's quite horrible. And he gets put in there the night before, and then he gets put in there again that night, but all of his arms and legs and whatever creep out, and
Yeah.
they throw him a wrap,
Yeah, like a tortilla wrap.
tortilla wrap, and he connects to that, and he can walk. And I was like, that's horrific. What a nightmare world this is, that he can just plug into something and be like, yep, I'm alive.
Yeah,
It's just, ugh.
it was really weird.
Yeah. Then a bird eats him. He gets cut in
Pecks
half.
at him, yeah.
He gets cut in half somehow. He goes to the veggie patch and finds a cucumber. And, his wife is very happy about that.
Yeah.
That's a very obvious. I don't know if it's like a tall, dark, and handsome or a dick joke or whatever, but telephone toy.
Well, this is when they've almost escaped. So
So
they're about to.
have their good plan. They get out of there. And then they're
Almost
right about
there.
to get out. They're going to get on the rubbish truck. Well, are
Yeah.
they just going to escape out?
I think
that
they were
way?
just going to jump on the
Oh,
bin and
yeah,
then jump
yeah,
off, and
that-
yeah.
But there's a rubbish truck coming somehow because they're just always going.
Yep.
Oh, sorry for foreign listeners, garbage truck.
Constantly going, 24/7 apparently.
Yeah.
The same guy drives all the trucks.
No, this was a different guy.
I don't think we see.
we see. It's. I think it's a fun maybe fact. It's meant to be Sid. Because he's wearing the
good.
same shirt and he looks somewhat similar.
Good.
Yeah. That's a bit mean.
Well, he was a bad kid.
It's not a bad profession. Our kids love the Garbos.
Yeah, I'm not dissing
Oh,
Garbos,
we're
but
doing Garbos here.
I'm not dissing people who drive rubbish trucks, but just that smell. He deserves to
Especially
smell
over
that.
there. Like, have you seen the dumps over in the States?
Yeah, Sid deserves to smell rubbish.
He
all
seems
day.
pretty happy though,
Yeah.
listening to his tunes. Anyway, back on track. So the telephone toy is like a little phone on wheels, and he's like, "They'll never break me." And then when Lotso figures out what they're doing, they throw him down, and he's like, "Sorry, Sheriff." They broke me. I was like, they never broke me. They broke him.
Yep.
I think they missed a real good chance here to have a betrayal. Like I was saying before, with the Caterpillar Room, there's no new and interesting toys. Why not have a toy who really wants to get into the Butterfly Room and is like, oh, let's all escape together, then betrays them to get into the Butterfly Room.
Yeah.
And you could even have a chance there, because that's pretty stock standard to just be like, oh, this guy knows what's up, let's bust him
Let's
up.
beat him up
But
until he tells us.
I think it would be so much better because Lotso is so evil, as we see later. Like, he seems, pretty generic early on, but other than that hat trick. But he could have been like, yeah, you can be in the butterfly room, and then like push the toy into the bin or something like that and be like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I just think that would have been to really show like
How?
he doesn't care. He
Yeah.
just wants power, sort of thing. Then Ken is like, nah, I'm with the good guys. Jumps over. Some shenanigans happen. They end up in. Oh
Well,
no!
it's
Lotso ends up in the bin.
Well, at first it's revealed today, to the baby that he wasn't like those toys weren't replaced. It was only Lotso.
And baby could have been happy.
Yeah, and Woody throws the name tag that says "My heart belongs to Daisy," and the baby sees that and
Lotso breaks it.
yeah.
He's like, "You're just a big baby," and he
Yeah,
crushes it
smashes
with his
it.
walking stick.
And baby is like, maybe Lotso ain't such a good guy.
Is that what he was thinking? Because all I heard was screaming.
Gaga.
He freaks out. He
Yeah.
like, lifts him up, and
Yeah.
Lotso's yelling at him, and he throws him in and shuts it. And they're all like, "Yeah!" But then they run across, and the truck's coming, and Lotso grabs one of them, or one of them gets stuck. And when they do,
Woody. I think his leg gets stuck. or something.
no, Lotso grabs him after that. Woody
Yeah.
goes back for someone.
Oh yeah, Slinky.
Slinky, yeah.
Yeah.
Slinky is like, well, I mean, he's a dog, and he's like, that's his character. He's just like Buzz, but not as useful. He's really faithful, and he's a good dog. Then Lotso grabs Woody and pulls him down, then they all go in there. They're like, one in all in, except for Ken and Barbie.
Yeah.
I almost said Ben and Carby.
Ben and Carby.
They go to the dump. They all get dumped out there. Then the triplets, who I forgot were in this movie,
Yeah, the alien triplets.
they're like, Claw, because their whole thing is they're obsessed with claws because of where they came from, and then a truck just friggin' obliterates them. Just wipes them out. I know that that's not what happens, but for a second you're like, oh my god, they're dead.
Gone.
They're just... And then all the rest of the toys get hit by another, not a truck, a bulldozer, sorry, little bulldozer, and pushed into this conveyor belt thing, and then there's some shenanigans.
They end up on like this
There's magnets pull up all the
conveyor belt
metal,
thing,
and,
yeah.
and then Lotso's like, oh, help me, I'm stuck, and then Woody and Buzz help him, and then they go through, and I'm like, just leave him
Yeah, just
behind.
leave that guy. But that's like, that shows how manipulative he is,
Yeah.
because when he's like, I'm stuck, and you can see on his face, like, you think, oh, crap, like, this guy is really
Yeah.
upset, and, we should help him. I know Woody and the toys are just good toys,
The
but...
reason why it's bad that he's stuck is because the things that don't get lifted up by the magnet are shredded.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
that's why it's important they help him, not like he's just stuck on a conveyor belt.
Oh, yeah, he's about to be ripped up.
Then he's like, oh, I can get up to the emergency stop, help me, because it's after the shredder, they drop back down, and it's
A big
heading to
inferno.
an incinerator. Big
Incinerator.
wall.
Fire.
Yeah. Big
Burn,
in the
burn,
middle.
die.
Which, I just wrote, screw you, Lotso.
Yeah. F that guy.
Yeah. They help him up, and he gets to the emergency stop, and they're running back as fast as they can. They're like, oh my God.
Stop, press the button, press the button.
And he's like,
See ya.
see you later, Sheriff, and walks off, and they're like, oh, and they just drop. They're like, there's nothing we can do other than, run along, climb up that bit that he climbed up.
But they were like way further. They were almost about to fall in.
Yeah, that's
There's
right.
no way they could have run
I
back.
forgot about that because they went to help him and then that pushed them.
Yeah.
I fully believed that this was going to go the way it's implied when I first watched the movie. They're all being dragged down to the incinerator. They're fighting. It's so intense. The music, everything, I was 100% certain that they were all going to die and that's how the movie was going to end.
Yeah.
And the movie really wants you to believe it, and it does such a good job of it being like, this is just what happens.
Yeah.
And they all stop fighting, and they
hands.
hold hands, and they
They just accept that
yeah.
this is the end.
And then
And then
right at the very last second, a claw picks them up, and the triplets have saved them.
yep.
Um,
And you just sort of accept at the same time as them, like, this is the end.
yeah, there's I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
Yep.
There's an amazing video of a guy got the movie and he edited, he cut out the the rest of the movie
Yep.
and
Showed
put
it.
in the credits. I don't
After-
even think it's the credits of this movie, because this movie doesn't just start off with "You've Got a Friend in Me." you know
No,
what I mean?
yeah.
He just put in the credits with the song "You've Got a Friend in Me," which is like the theme of all three movies, or four, but I think it's in the fourth one. Just starting with them going into the incinerator,
Yep.
and he put it
Shows
on
it
for
to
his
his
mum,
mum, yeah.
and yeah, it shows her reaction,
Yeah.
and she's like, oh, freaking out.
I think she starts crying.
Yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah.
And with the song that comes on is so happy. Like, it's like, dun dun, you've got a friend in me. Oh, so good.
I love that video. Anyway, they don't die.
No,
Yeah,
they're
the
saved.
claw picks them up.
Yeah. Then Lotso is grabbed by some
A truck driver.
horrible rubbish truck driver who tapes him to the front
Of
of
his
the truck. And
Yeah,
then
on like the great bit.
Yeah, all the other toys that are already zip tied or taped or whatever there say you better close your mouth because there's like
Yeah.
all bugs hitting them
Yeah.
and stuff. And
At first, when we first watched this, I was a bit unsatisfied with Lotso's ending. Like, I thought, oh, I think he deserves a more harsh
it's pretty hard.
treatment. But then I thought about it and I was like, yeah, that's probably the best place for him to be because he's stuck there. He can't move or do anything, so he can't manipulate the people around him to.
And he'll never be played with again.
No.
He'll just waste away and die. It's
Yeah.
pretty horrific when you think about it, but good.
Yeah, good. So I think that's pretty fair. Pretty fair punishment.
Yep, then they make it back to the house. They throw themselves in the attic box. Woody jumps in the college box.
For some
they
reason-
find the same truck driver was going to pick him up the first time.
Yeah.
Sid, let's call him. He looks like him. They find him magically, and he's gone past the house again, and they get back there. And
It's always rubbish day.
apparently, there's lots of rubbish.
Well,
in
that's
that
why the
town.
timing is confusing because you'd think like here it's only once a week, so maybe it's been a whole week.
Yeah, well, but here, but then also 5 minutes down the road, it's a different day. And
Yeah, but he's going
further
back
into
to
one
past.
town over from us. I know. I'm just saying.
He's going back to Andy's house.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, they end up back in the house.
Yes,
and in a
and
box.
It's all going to be good. It's basically how it should have gone a couple of days before. Woody's like, "Yep, all right, see you guys." They're all like,
We're going to the attic.
"Yeah, we're going to the attic, and it'll be fine. We've just been to hell,
Yes. Toy hell.
toy hell, essentially."
And for some reason, Andy has absolutely no question about how his
Yeah.
toys went from being in a trash bag, in the bin, gone, to now just in a box in the
Yeah.
middle of his room.
I guess it's like, everybody's had that time with their mum, especially when you're a teenager.
Well, he's happy that they're back.
Yeah, and I think his brain is just, well, he doesn't have one because he's 17.
True.
Sorry to all the 17-year-olds listening out there, but
It's true.
when you hit puberty, you take your brain out, put it in a box, and come back for it when you turn like 21.
Yep. Pretty much.
So, yeah, it's all good. Oh, while he's talking to his mum about he's about to leave and,
What he should do with the toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woody jumps down, writes something on a sticky note, slaps it on the box,
I
and
assume it says,
the address.
yeah, for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it does, because he checks the address when he gets there.
Mm.
The address for
For
where?
Bonnie's
Bonnie's
house.
house. And we see Woody's perspective through the box, watching the other toys.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, because it's
first person. So
it's
it's just.
assumed that Woody is still in the college box.
Mhm,
Yeah. And the toys are all in
yeah.
the donate box.
Mhm. And he awkwardly stands at Bonnie's gate watching her play, and I think it's meant to be like, he's like, oh, that's nice, this is good. And he knows Bonnie, like, he doesn't know her, but I think he assumes that his mum wrote the note, and I think he
Yeah.
knows the parents, because they're like, oh, Andy,
I think
and-
they're like family friends, because in the beginning, like, Bonnie's mum was like, how's Andy and all that.
but she says like he's off to college, and then the other
Yeah.
one's really surprised, so I think that they're not
Not super
maybe
close
like
family
one or
friends.
two steps removed sort of thing, like they're friendly and probably hang out, but
Yeah.
he decides to give all the toys except for Woody to Bonnie.
Yeah.
because they might as well get played with. And then he goes through all the toys and is like, this is this one, this is this one, this is this one, and she's loving it. And
Well,
then
in the behind the scenes where they were explaining it, they said like they didn't want Andy to just pick up the toys and give them to her. Like every toy he picks up, he caresses and holds, and you really get that sense that he loves these toys, but he wants to give them to a deserving child.
The original ending didn't have him playing with the toys.
Yeah, he was just going to pass them on.
Yeah, he was just gonna give them to her and be like, "See you later." But then they were like, the toys need that one last with Andy.
And so does Andy. He also needs that.
Yeah, before
that
he
one
goes
last
off to
play.
college, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And it's so good that they got the original voice actor back.
For
He's
Andy.
in his mid-20s or something. But yeah, it's just like that perfect signing off
Yeah.
of like, this is the end. So yeah, they play with the toy. Oh, Bonnie looks in the box once he's gotten through all of them, and Woody's in there somehow. And I don't know how Andy didn't see him.
Yeah. He's surprised to see Woody in there, as if you wouldn't.
And Bonnie says, "My cowboy," and reaches for him, and Andy pulls back. And he's like, "Ooh," and then he goes, "Whew, this is Sheriff Woody," and passes him off. And then they play together for, I don't know, it's like 20 minutes or something like that, it seems like. And then she's got all the toys lined up on the
Front step
patio of the
thing.
patio veranda thing. And then Woody says, "See you later," and Bonnie goes inside with her mum, and Andy says, "See you later," and he drives off, and he's looking back in his rearview mirror, and Woody and Buzz and that are just like, "So long, partner."
Yeah.
And then everybody cries.
It's a happy, sad ending.
Very bittersweet.
Yeah.
Then there's roll credits, but it shows how good it is at Bonnie's house. It's back to how it was with Andy in the glory days.
Yeah.
An amazing song, "We Belong Together," also by Randy Newman, plays during this.
We belong together, yes we do.
Shows us all that, and we see at Sunnyside that everything's back to how it should be. They take turns in the caterpillar room.
Yeah, and it's like Ken and Barbie are now like the leaders,
They
but it's
sort of run it, but more like how Andy or Dolly runs it.
Yeah.
They're just, keep things in order, but they don't. Nobody gets put in prison or anything like
it's
that.
how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it should be.
And
is that those toys don't come to life.
Yeah, and I love how they take turns, like they tag team for the caterpillar room.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, you go, and then they swap.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect ending. Except in the old Pixar movies, they had bloopers. Not bloopers like the actors, that
Toy bloopers.
the toy,
Yeah.
like the toys.
So unique.
I love that. Other movies have done it, and it's always good. But Pixar, just so good and so funny. And I think that's the one thing I'm like, damn, even if they didn't put it in any other movie, this is what started it all. I reckon they should have, even if, they put it in Toy Story 3 and then never again,
Yeah.
because this was like the end of an era.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the movie. I did want to talk, I was supposed to talk about it early on, I'll just talk a little bit about it now. The original version of this movie was nothing like this. Like there was all drama behind the scenes. They wanted Disney wanted a Toy Story 3. Pixar said, no, we don't have any ideas. Disney was going to create a different animation studio called Circle 7 and just do it. Be like, we own Toy Story, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Pixar came up with this absolutely fantastic idea and did it, and I don't know if this was Pixar's idea or if it was Circle 7 or whatever, but the original concept was the Buzz Lightyear toys were all getting recalled back to Taiwan or wherever, because that's Asia is where most stuff gets made. Sorry if nobody knew that, but
Newsflash.
yeah. And the toys were going to go on like a global adventure to get him back. I am so glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, that's a bit grand.
If this movie, no, not that. If this movie came out not 10 years, like, if it had been like 2 or 3 or 4 years after 2, that would be good. Because that could just be like another Toy Story adventure.
Yeah, fun adventure movie.
Yeah, but this, for me, who grew up with these movies, this movie was the perfect way to cap it off. And, like, I'm not the kind of person who really gets emotional watching movies, but talking about it now, I get emotional because it's like, you know, being a parent and just, this movie it's perfect. It is, like, I'm not perfect, like, as a movie, but for what it strives to do and the story that it's telling and the audience that it is trying to reach, 10 out of 10, they didn't drop the ball anywhere. Like, all of my friends will say the same thing, that Toy Story 3, I watched it with all of my friends on a bus coming back from Dreamworld in year 10. Like, you know, that's not the best conditions to watch a movie. Nobody made noise while it was on. Best movie to watch with people, like, the best times to watch a movie like this are with people who think and feel the exact same way as you do about it, and it was awesome.
Yeah. See, that's where my opinions differ with this movie. I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. Just an overall good fun movie.
Yep.
But
As
I
you
don't
should.
I don't have that, like, nostalgia aspect attached to it. I was born 2 years after the first one came out. Like, I watched the movies, but it didn't really stick with me as it did with you.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, yeah, it's a good movie, but
How dare
I don't
you? No,
I don't
no,
really have that, like, emotional attachment to it.
No, I fully understand that. I think,
I can see why other people do, though.
yeah, I know that nostalgia obviously comes into it, and you can't avoid that. But unlike a lot of things where it's just like, huh, remember this? Oh, yeah, you like this, which a lot of people that we know fall for that. One person in particular is just like, yeah, this is what I watched when I was a kid, so it must be good, and
Yeah.
loves all of it. All the live action remakes, everything. He loves all of that just because that's what we saw when we were kids.
Yeah.
So it must be good, even though a lot of it's soulless in my opinion. I don't watch a lot of it. I like to go back to the stuff that I watched when I was a kid, and that's the stuff that I want to show our kids, but I don't condemn them. Some of them I think are just horrendous, like that they shouldn't have been made. A lot of them I'm like, cool, it's just an updated version for a new audience. I'm largely indifferent. This, I don't feel like is that. I think it's people who really cared about this world, these characters, this story, and this audience.
And it grows with you.
Yeah, and it is a story that makes sense according to this world, and everything checks out. And
So, what's your rating? Cash or trash?
my rating is obviously cash.
Yeah. I'll say I'll rate this cash,
Oh,
but
really?
like I said, it's just a good fun movie. But if I never watched this movie again, I would be completely fine with that.
I feel the same though.
Yeah.
I don't need to re-watch this movie. We watched it for the podcast 3 times. Or
3 or 4 times.
I think you watched it 4 times because I was at work and you
Yeah, I
watched
watched
it with the boys.
kids. So yeah.
I don't need to watch it again,
Yeah.
but I would never not want to watch it. You know, there's some movies that I look back on, I'm like, oh, I love that, like The Incredibles. But you've been like, oh, you know, do you want to watch that? Like, do you put it on for the kids or something like that? I'm like, oh, nah. Toy Story movies, I'm like, yeah. And maybe that's a nostalgia thing, but I was a kid when The Incredibles came out. It just hits different, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, this movie wasn't a childhood movie for me. Like I said, I watched it, but I didn't have that same
Yeah.
experience as you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, cash.
Wow. It's financially cash. According to us, it's also cash. According to critics, it's very much cash. It's 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and 8.3 on IMDb.
So, and I think it's 92% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. But
Yeah.
it's not a new thing where people are walking away from numerical ratings, you know, whatever out of 10,
Yeah.
whatever out of 5. I think Roger Ebert did 4 stars. I don't know why, but
Our
the-
rating system is just either,
it's good or it's bad.
yeah,
Or we liked it or we didn't like it.
Yeah.
And because this is all our opinion, although it's Toy Story 3, but you know, we strive to go, this movie it made the most money that year.
and did it deserve?
Did it deserve it? And
title.
obviously, you know, we're going to go back to a lot of movies that we might not like, but that doesn't mean that they're bad movies. You know, and one thing that when we were researching a lot of this stuff, not for Toy Story 3, but just for what movies and putting them on the list and stuff, there are movies that have definitely stood the test of time and in one way or another. But there's also movies that were highest grossing, that there's franchise movies and blockbusters and stuff that you think are the kind of movies that make the most money
Yeah.
and are beaten out by other movies, which
Yep.
I won't spoil here. You'll just have to come back and listen. But anyway, this has been the Cash vs. Trash podcast, episode 1,
Yep.
2010,
Highest grossing.
part 1.
Yep. And so next week we will be.
Drum roll.
Yep. The lowest grossing of 2010 was Buried with Ryan Reynolds. So we'll be doing that next week. Tune in.
Yep. These episodes are going to be coming out. I don't know, like any other time zones, but roughly midday or before every Sunday, Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
So about 12 o'clock. Yeah. And
Yeah.
do you want to do the
Outro.
honors, outro?
Well, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our first podcast, first ever episode. If you'd like to support us, we would really appreciate it. We've got a Patreon. You can sign up on there. We've got 2 tiers at the moment. You can have a look. Or you can follow us on our socials. At the moment, I only have Instagram. It's at Cash vs. Trash Pod. And all our listening apps, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and you can also find us on YouTube. If you can like and subscribe, that would be really good.
Yep.
All the links will be in the description, so you can just follow them there.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you. We will
Yes.
see you next week, hopefully.
Thank you very much. This has been Cash vs. Trash.
Yep.
Goodbye.
See you.